The human mind is a living energy, a space of awareness that has an infinite capacity to observe, learn, and create. But in today's world, we have unconsciously allowed ourselves to become prisoners of entertainment, and shows like Kapil Sharma's comedy, DD Number 1, Dadagiri, Kaun Banega Crorepati, IPL cricket matches, football tournaments, song and dance competitions, and the endless flood of Instagram reels have become the daily food for the brain. Yet instead of nourishing the brain, they slowly make it dull, weak, and addicted. If we listen carefully to what Osho and Krishnamurti again and again pointed towards, we can see that the problem is not the activity itself, but the way the mind is using it. Because when we depend on constant entertainment, we escape from the silence of our own being. We run away from facing the inner emptiness, the inner anxiety. And this running away has a direct impact on the brain's chemistry. Neuroscience today explains that every time we watch a comedy show or scroll reels, the brain releases dopamine, a pleasure chemical. Just like what happens when a person eats sugar or takes a drug, and this dopamine makes us feel good for a short while. But the brain's natural balance gets disturbed because constant dopamine release reduces the sensitivity of dopamine receptors, which means the brain now needs more and more stimulation to feel the same joy, leading to addiction and dullness. And this dullness is not only emotional, but also intellectual, because research shows that when the brain is fed with quick bursts of entertainment, attention span decreases, memory becomes weak, and intelligence loses its depth, because intelligence is not about gathering information or laughing at jokes. Intelligence is the ability to observe without distortion, to think deeply, to question without fear, and to act with clarity. Osho often said that entertainment is used by society to keep man asleep, because if people are continuously kept busy with cricket, football, cinema, comedy, gossip shows, they will never question the structure of society. They will never look within to ask who they are. And Krishnamurti again and again reminded us that the real danger of entertainment is that it conditions the brain into seeking pleasure and avoiding silence. And a brain that is always chasing pleasure is a brain that cannot see clearly, because clarity requires space, silence, and sensitivity. Modern neuroscience confirms this in its own language. Studies on attention economy show that people who consume high doses of social media reels or binge-watch shows develop a hyperactive dopamine system that floods the brain in small doses, while the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for deep thinking, reasoning, and long-term planning, becomes weaker, meaning the person loses patience, loses the capacity to sit with a question deeply, and becomes restless, shallow, and distracted. Exactly what we see in the young generation who cannot sit even for a few minutes without touching the phone. And when such people watch hours of Kapil Sharma or cricket leagues, their brain is tricked into thinking that it has achieved relaxation and joy. But actually, the brain is becoming more and more dependent on outside stimulation, while inner sensitivity dies. And this is why we see a society where people laugh a lot at jokes on screen, but are depressed when alone. They clap and scream in stadiums, but cannot look into their own loneliness, because the brain has been trained to escape from reality. Dopamine is not the only chemical here. Serotonin and endorphins also play a role, but the imbalance created by overstimulation makes the natural harmony of the brain collapse, so that creativity, problem-solving, and intelligence weaken. Recent research also shows that constant entertainment reduces the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, a protein that helps new neurons grow, meaning that our brain literally stops growing and becomes biologically weaker when we are addicted to reels, TV shows, and non-stop sports. And this is alarming because human intelligence depends on plasticity, on the brain's ability to form new connections. But when we numb ourselves with cheap laughter and quick excitement, the brain is robbed of its chance to renew itself. Osho warned that man has become like a monkey, dancing to the tunes of society, laughing at what others decide, clapping when the television tells you to clap, crying when the movie wants you to cry. And Krishnamurti pointed out that this dependency makes the brain mechanical, because intelligence is lost when reaction becomes automatic. And if we look at our lives honestly, how much of our day is truly original, truly our own, and how much is just reaction to what is shown on screen? Comedy triggers laughter, cricket triggers shouting, reels trigger scrolling, music triggers clapping. Where is the space where the brain is awake, alert, and free? Neuroscience again supports this. Functional MRI scans show that during passive entertainment, the brain's default mode network, the part responsible for self-reflection, is less active, meaning we are less aware of ourselves, while the sensory motor areas are overstimulated, meaning we become more like machines responding to input rather than conscious beings choosing wisely. And over years of this pattern, the brain loses its ability to question, to doubt, to go against society. And this is why both Osho and Krishnamurti insisted on meditation, on awareness, because meditation is nothing but detoxifying the brain from the garbage of entertainment, not by fighting against entertainment, but by simply observing the craving without indulging it. But today's world is not encouraging observation, it is encouraging distraction, and distraction sells, because if you are dull, you can be controlled. If you are weak in intelligence, you can be manipulated. And the entertainment industry unconsciously or consciously serves this purpose. It keeps people busy with IPL, Kapil Sharma, dance shows, Instagram reels, so that they never have the energy to ask why they are unhappy in their jobs, why they are trapped in meaningless relationships, why society is so corrupt, why religion is divided, why there is war. Because all their passion has already been drained in cheering for a cricket team or laughing at a comedian. And so the brain that could have been a flame of awareness becomes like ashes, without energy, without sharpness. Recent brain studies from universities show that people who take regular breaks from digital entertainment and spend time in silence, nature, or meditation have higher gray matter density in the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, meaning stronger memory and intelligence, while those addicted to reels and shows show atrophy in these areas, meaning real physical shrinking of intelligence-related brain regions. And this is exactly what the mystics were pointing to long ago, though in different words. When you escape from yourself, you lose your inner strength. When you keep feeding the brain with cheap pleasure, you kill its sensitivity, and intelligence is nothing but sensitivity. To be intelligent is to see things as they are. But when the brain is always hungry for the next joke, the next match, the next reel, it cannot see what is here. It only waits for what is next, and such a brain is weak. So, if we really want to be alive, we must see the danger of this entertainment trap, not by becoming against cricket or against comedy, but by becoming deeply aware of how they function inside us, how they release chemicals that make us addicted, how they steal our energy, how they weaken our capacity to think clearly. And once this is seen clearly, a natural intelligence arises that does not reject entertainment, but puts it in its right place, as a small part of life, not the whole of life. And then the brain regains its power, its freshness, its capacity to live with silence and still be joyful, to live with attention and still laugh. But now the laughter will not be mechanical. The joy will not be borrowed. It will arise from the depth of being, and that joy is intelligence itself.